document 2 months back, and I was appalled, is the word which comes to the mind, that since 2021 we have had only 8 pharma innovations in our country, and during the same time US has had 500 and China has had close to 150. We have 128 unicorns in India and only one is doing drug innovation. We are called the pharmacy of world, but the 60% of pharmacy is only generic. We contribute to only 4 to 5% of global revenue. What is happening? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the main issue here is the lack of clinical exclusivity frameworks when it comes to new drug approvals in India.
Right.
So you spend all that money trying to develop something new for the first time maybe in the world, and then once it is approved by the CDSCO, anyone as a second applicant can come and get it approved and literally, what I would say, copy your innovation. So there is no guarantee that all the money you spent could be recovered. So because of this, the ROI risk and the risk of dilution of your innovation, no one wants to get into that game anymore. Or they do, and the ones who have a very strong will and big good backing financially would probably get into it. Like, there are a few companies who do it, but the large part of the industry doesn't want to innovate. They prefer to just what I would call as reverse engineer, and we are very good at reverse engineering or copy paste.
Yeah.
And the entire model of pharma has been built on copy pasting, and we've mastered the art of copy pasting in that way. So
I want to repeat this again for people who didn't understand what I said earlier. There have been only 8 pharma innovations since 2021 in this country, and you have been one of them. ENTOD Pharmaceuticals, MYATRO XL. Things are not how they seem to be. You are the first globally approved 0.05% of atropine for myopia control, which has come from India. And you are one of those 8 people who meet that list. So my first question is, how does it, being one of those 8, does it give you some access to different things? Or it is how does the system around you look like?
see, when we went into developing this product or this medicine, we didn't do it with the intention that we'll be the first in the world. We did it with the intention because there was a therapeutic need. A lot of eye doctors were telling us that there is nothing for myopia. Why don't you develop something? So it started from there. But then when we came close to the approval process, we realized that actually we would be the first in the world to do it, and we were not looking at it. At the same time, because of our current ecosystem and regulatory landscape, we also knew that we may not get a first applicant advantage.
Okay.
So being first was not attractive enough for us.
Right.
But it looks good on paper. So you tell somebody, the first to do it. But actually, it should warrant some benefit, I feel. Otherwise, no one will even get into innovation in the first place. So it's always a matter of pride that you've done something. But I think there's so much more to do in innovation. And we have a lot of projects happening right now. So we're looking at least 2 to 3, innovative, indigenously developed formulations in the next 2 to 3 years. So for us, more than being the first, we want to do as many as we can. So,
in our previous conversation in episode 1, you told me money is not a problem. The real problem is having a research mindset rather than being a copy-paste thing. And you have termed these products as Me Too products. So is it really a systemic change that we're looking at, or what is lacking?
see, for any pharma industry to be healthy, there needs to be a balance between low-cost generics, which kind of drive the market, and that is needed, right? But at the same time, it needs to be balanced with genuine innovation, right? Right now in India, the balance is heavily tipped towards low-cost generics.
Right.
And because of that, without even realizing, we are stifling innovation in the country. And why this is a problem in India is because right now, most of the molecules that are in the market is because somewhere in the West, it was developed for the first time, right? But there are a lot of medical conditions in India which are more prevalent in this country than in the US. Like you talk about dengue, TB, leprosy, fungal keratitis. They're all more kind of common in India and South Asian countries. Who will develop those molecules,
True.
right? And we can't depend on the West or regulated markets to develop those.
True.
So there, I think the problem comes, and that's when we realize that we need to solve it in some way or the other.
For those of us who are joining here, they should watch episode 1 because the first episode of this podcast was aired and introduced with Mr. Nikkhil Masurkar. He is the CEO of ENTOD Pharmaceuticals and he is one of the leading pharma guys throughout the country. He's also called as the Iron Man in pharma industry. Okay. So please watch the first episode before you understand what we are talking about today. Moving on, you posted 8 names. I want to read it out. Decidustat, Nefithromycin, Next, CR19, MYATRO XL. You wrote that long post about these 8 innovations. What were you feeling at that point of time?
I'm very competitive in nature. So I was just looking at it from the point of view that why in China they managed to innovate so many new innovative drugs.
Right.
And in India, we're stuck with not even 10. We're still in single digits. Where have we gone wrong?
Exactly.
In our, the innovation ecosystem here that we have, despite having some brilliant minds. I mean, trust me, most of the top pharma guys in the US are originally from India. Right. Despite having a scientific mindset, we have not been able to innovate. So that was going through my mind that, if China can do it, okay, US, we don't always want to compare ourselves with the US, but our own neighbor, who's always been known to be the factory of the world, they managed to innovate. And we are the factory of the pharma world, and we haven't been able to innovate to the level that China has.
Again, I want to talk about that list more. It's all about these. It's ENTOD Pharmaceuticals, ImmunoAct, Biocon, Orchid, Wockhardt. These are not very big giants, yet these are some companies, including yours. You all have made genuine bets on novelty. And why aren't the big pharma doing this, and why are you guys be able to do it, and why not others being able to do it is my question to you.
I think the entire pharma business model in India has been, developed around, marketing branded generics. Right. So the money goes into marketing. It doesn't matter whether you're the first, second, third, fourth to launch something, but it's your marketing strategy, your sales strategy, and everything we know about pharma is that. So if you're a good marketeer, you'll be able to make something decent with your brand. You'll be able to grow your brand to a level. So because of this this kind of a commercial ecosystem, the research ecosystem hasn't been able to be developed.
Right.
And this is probably why the big pharma don't enter the area of truly innovative drugs. They focus more on the marketing and sales. Rather than genuinely innovating. And as far as what I know is that they're always trying to either get molecules which are already approved in the US, trying to bring it here and make it big brands, or trying to not having to do clinical trials, which I don't think is the right way, because data is king in this day and age. The more data you generate in Indian patients, the better chance you would have in the future.
True.
So I think that's the way we should be going.
And we, as a country of 1.4 billion population, we can have a lot of data for research, Also, what I think, most of the drugs that we see, there is no Indianized data. Mostly our medicines that are here, we have usually Western data. We don't know how the drug actually interacts with the Indian population. I've seen that happen with a lot of drugs. That also happens. We have a massive pool of people. Why not do studies here and innovate something, But what do you think separates you people from the rest of the pharma guys? Why did you all choose to innovate something, and is it just pure financial commercial thing, or is it something that separates you else?
No, I just think it's the DNA really. There is an innovation kida, if I can call it, in all of us, right? From my grandfather's days, he wanted to do something new, something different. but not just do different for the sake of it, but because it was needed.
Right.
Like in those days, my grandfather launched crocin in the market because there was no other antipyretic in the market, and he wanted to launch something new. So our kind of way of thinking has always been to identify the problem and to find the best cost-effective solution for it. And I think that is what innovation is about. It's not about novelty. It's about identifying what the problem is and seeing how you can find a solution, and then the finance commercial aspect comes into play. So I think that mindset has allowed us to always take calculated risks when it comes to the innovation. And even today, we are taking calculated risks. Many investors don't want to even come close to what we're doing because they simply cannot understand what's going to happen in the next 5 years with all the innovations that we have planned. But it is beyond that. I think you need to have a long-term approach in pharma, because these are not solutions for the short term. These are medium to long-term solutions. Like we're talking about crocin now. This was conceptualized by my grandfather in the 60s. And now we're in 2026 and we're talking about it, and it's still used. So if ENTOD or me or anyone in my team, we develop a molecule or something first in the world, who knows, in the year 2100 people will talk about it. And it could have caused some good impact in the society or on the health of people. So the long-term kind of goal, I think, is more important in pharma, which is kind of lacking across the board.
I want people to think about a moment how their lives would be if there had been no crocin in their life. I mean, without an antipyretic, things would have been very difficult suddenly. The only thing because crocin came was just because of innovation, and now you are also innovating, I was listening to this podcast of Nikkhil K when Dr. Reddy's labs and all these people were sitting and they were talking about pharma, where Mr. G.V. Prasad said that India needs to focus where the value is, which is innovation and not on generics. This was what he quoted. And I think MYATRO XL is the same product of this innovation. So, and this is the first globally approved 0.05% atropine for myopia control. As a doctor, I get parents in my OPD, and all of us deal with myopia children cases multiple times a week. A lot of parents want to know what can we do beyond glasses to make sure that myopia is under control. And I understand the value this brings on the table. We regularly write MYATRO XL, depending case based. I want to understand what actually happens in the background to approve such a drug.
So it's a long drawn process. It starts with your pre-formulation work.
Right.
Then you have your formulation studies. Then you have to create some animal models to test the molecule. Then you have to do animal toxicity. Once you have your proof of concept properly sorted out with all the stability formulation data, which takes a long time, then you apply to the CDSCO for a CT clinical trial NOC. And then you go through the clinical trial phase, which is again a long process of maybe phase 2 may be needed or directly phase 3. Even after approval, you need to do a phase 4 in most cases. So the entire process from start to finish, would take around say about 4 to 5 years, easily. Some more, some less, and a lot of money spent.
Yeah.
Now. This is why many people don't want to get into it, because they were like, let someone in the US do it, right? I mean, why should we break our heads over it? Our job is to sell. And that mindset, I think, has allowed us to basically just copy paste. But for us, our goal is to find problems in India. Like there's not enough treatments of fungal keratitis in India. There's not enough corneal wound healing treatments in India. We are looking at it from that perspective, that can we develop something, and obviously once it's approved, we want to make it a big brand. It has to be a big brand,
right.
But that is a much later thought. It's not about brand building. It's about building the health of your people, and I think that is more important to do in the long term. It's the impact that you create, which I think in the long term will be remembered.
But when you get a drug onto the market, it usually gets approved in India. How did you get global approval for MYATRO XL is what I want to understand.
Yeah, so once we got the approval in India, we then use that approval to get it approved in other countries, where it's relatively easier without having to do any further clinical trials in those markets.
Okay.
So that process is still happening. We are still registering this medicine in various countries, and our focus has always been on the emerging markets, countries of the global south. It's never been the US or Europe or one of that, because I feel they're quite an overprivileged market. They already have a lot of things. Not that they don't need this,
Right.
but if you go to the African countries, they hardly have molecules, and it's more exciting for us as a company to, supply those markets with the best molecules at the best price. I think this is where Indian pharma can have a leadership role. I don't think we could have a leadership role by supplying to the US. We're just there to make money.
Right.
But if suppose you flood the African markets, the Southeast Asian markets with new molecules, new concepts, new therapy, these are emerging economies.
Right.
Then I think you can have a leadership role. So that is why our focus is more towards these countries.
Right. But we are talking about a system that needs a change. For example, if someone can replicate the work that you did behind MYATRO XL and just get it onto the market, does that disappoint you, or that makes you think about the next product? Would you want to invest so much of money in that? Does that make you disheartened at times?
See, it's human nature to get disheartened when someone copies your work, right? But at some point, that feeling kicks in that at least you did it first and someone copied it.
Right.
And that itself then becomes a kind of a moral boost to do something new. So the disappointment is there for the first few months. You're like, oh my God, I've worked so hard for it. My team, my research team, we spent money. Now someone else has copied. I've spent, say, for example, 20 CR doing it. The second applicant has spent 3 lakhs and got approval. And they're spending the remaining 10 CR on marketing and making that into a big brand.
Right.
So that disappointment is always
fair.
there. But I think, with innovation, you need to, never give up on what you want to achieve. Like now we are looking beyond atropine for myopia. We've started work on it.
Yeah.
So nothing kind of in the long term gets us demoralized. Yes, I would love for the system to change so that after me, younger entrepreneurs would do it 100 times better than what I could do it or what ENTOD could do.
Right.
So I'm more concerned about the youngsters, that I don't want the youngsters to then do the same thing what's happening in pharma now of business of copy pasting. So we can get out of it because we're already, we've been there for a long time and we could somehow balance it out and, make it a profitable venture. But what about a startup pharma who wants to do something new? It's such a big gamble for them.
True.
They'll not be able to pull it off.
You were appointed the Vice President of IDMA's R&D and Innovation Committee in 2025. You have seen from the inside, the institutional vantage point. What have you seen that you didn't see before?
See, one thing I realized that everyone wants to innovate, right? That mindset of wanting to do is there. They want to research. The research minds are there, but even the money is there, right? Because now funding is available, there are various ways of getting it. But because of the system being unfair, and because innovators are not protected, there is a hesitancy to get into it in the first place. So then they just say, what's the point of doing it? So that's one thing that I noticed. And I've been for enough panel discussions where we all talk about, the industry should move from volume-based to value-based. And in fact, when I hear it, I get so fed up. Because I was like, this is all just talk. What we need is a simple policy clarification, if not a policy change at a higher level, and the entire scene can change.
Right.
And this is the, I would say the white elephant in the room where no one wants to address. They talk about everything. I've seen podcasts, for 3-4 hours talking about innovation and all of that. But until and unless the laws and rules are there to protect innovators and balance it with the generics, like how they have in the US and China, this is just going to be talk.
You sent me a document in April when one line was there, I want to quote it right. The company that invests the most in innovation receives virtually no regulatory advantage, which is sad, and then as we are recording this 2 days ago, there was this podcast of Nikkhil K, where 2 great pharma CEOs explain how post-patent expiry, everything can be copied. All you need is a bioequivalence data for a drug to enter the market. What they didn't explain is what happens when a company that has innovated something and a company that innovates everything and it literally just get copied overnight. Isn't it disheartening for that company?
It is. So I think when the industry talks about clinical exclusivity, the reason why they don't want it is because the intent of those rules, which they call as NDCT rules,
Right,
was basically so that if a drug is approved in regulated markets, it could be brought into India and be marketed and sold at a lower price. So it made sense there because we are not doing the research. Someone in the US is doing it. But what if when someone in India does the research,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
Then it beats the point, right, of not offering clinical exclusivity. So our call has always been that Indian developed medicines, indigenously developed medicines, should be given a period of exclusivity where there cannot be a second applicant, so that you give time for that company to recover its research investments, like what happens in all other mature markets. That is all we're asking for. But this is such a controversial topic. The minute you mention clinical exclusivity in any pharma forum, the first thing that comes to people's mind is lack of access. Market access will reduce, cost will go up. But they are taking a 50-year-old argument, and trying to apply it now.
True.
Because affordability is not an issue for new drugs. It could be an issue for, say, an established drug which is needed, and for that also you have the Pradhan Mantri Jan Aushadhi scheme, you have state governments giving free medicines, all of that. Even after the affordability problem in India, you have almost 750 million people who have no problems paying the full price of their medicines.
True.
But we still talk about affordability, lack of market access, and then we use that to stifle innovation and the scientific minds in the country.
We get a lot of representatives from different pharma companies on a daily basis talking about their products. I always tell them all companies should have a segment of drugs which is on the premium side, because I don't think India may be affordability should be an issue. I mean, there are various segments of drugs happening. There should be a premium product for everything, which is preservative free and all the works happening. That is actually a way you can recoup money, is what I think. I mean, I don't know, you are better suited at this than I do. But, let me try pulling an analogy. Let's say I develop a new surgical technique for cataract surgery. I publish it in a peer-reviewed journal. People talk about it. And I train my team, I train them, I tell them what the protocols are. A lot of people read it in a journal. I talk about it on different CMEs. And suddenly some doctor adopts what I have innovated. I don't get any innovative, it's not an IP that I can protect, right? But the doctor who has adopted my skill suddenly gets a commercial reward of what I have done. At least my name is known. I am adopting Dr. Sameer's surgical approach, for example. Is this the same thing that's happening in the pharma world without any recognition?
No, not at all. Here you can't even mention which other company has developed it for the first time.
Okay.
Here, the second applicant uses our clinical data to show that this formulation has been tested and safe and efficacious and been tested in Indian eyes, for example, without mentioning us at all. There is no need to mention us.
Oh, really?
So it becomes exclusively that company's kind of property, which they almost, you can say, adopt or steal. So that is the problem. You can't even quote saying that, ENTOD Pharma did a phase 3 where they found this molecule can be. They don't even mention that, right? I mean, because
it's not required.
It's not required. They just say that the clinical studies have been done in India. So a doctor thinks, acha hai, unka, they've done some studies. They don't realize they haven't done the study.
Right.
We have done it. We have spent the money. So that accountability is not there in India. And in India, there is a confusion between clinical exclusivity and IP. Both are separate concepts.
Right.
IP is where there is a patent. Right. Now, if somebody infringes your patent, you have a right to go, and fight it out legally. That's all fine. But here we're not talking about that, because not all innovations can be patented.
Right.
There are a lot of innovations which, because of some prior art or various reasons, or maybe repurposed formulations, they can't be patented.
Right.
You can have a process patent which will not stop someone else from launching something similar and using a slightly different process.
Right.
So a lot of times when we go and we talk about this aspect of exclusivity, the first thing they said, you should have applied for a patent. And we're like, well, we tried, but we can't get a patent for everything. So how do I still protect my kind of innovation?
True.
So both are separate areas which often gets clubbed into one.
But why can't you get a patent on, let's say, MYATRO XL? Why can't you get a patent on that?
See, because atropine is an old molecule. It's a repurposed molecule. There is a lot of prior art. There have been works where, anecdotal studies have been done all over the world. It's been used in studies. So you can't then use that to patent the molecule. You can patent the process. You can patent your formulation, to some extent. But then it could be tweaked very easily. Like if I add one excipient, someone will add someone else saying, I have got out of it. So it could be, so who's going to then go to that level and fight it out legally with a company? Because see, I don't believe pharma should spend all their money on kind
legal
of
fees
fighting, all these cases. They should focus on developing medicines and be, fully confident that no one is going to copy me. Why should someone always be worried if someone's going to copy? So all that we're asking the regulator is to give companies a 4 to 5 year exclusivity, so that at least in these 4 to 5 years, you are confident that no one will ever copy you.
Yeah, and whatever,
and you can focus on the molecule.
Whatever money you've put in the R&D, at least that gets recouped and gives you a certain bit of profits. Come on. It's business at the end of the day.
No, absolutely. And then that could then be used. See, if you don't generate revenue from research products, you can't further innovate.
True.
So the cycle has to go on and on. It's not that we're going to pocket the money.
Absolutely.
It's that it has to go back in the business. It has to be invested in the organization.
True.
So that is the problem that is often faced.
So, again, how soon can a competitor enter the market with your product? Is there some timeline given?
Right now, there is no time limit at all.
Really?
3 months, 6 months, and anytime. Literally, the minute your product is approved as a first applicant, the second applicant can immediately apply, and they have to do bare minimal tests. QA, QC, some stability tests or whatever. I mean, it depends on what the requirement is. Or within 2 to 3 months, they can also get it approved and launch it in the market. So that is the norm. This is not something new. This has been happening
legal
for a long time. Yes,
this is legal.
It's legal. The system has allowed it because, and I'll tell you, as I mentioned earlier on, they've allowed it because somewhere they think that the first applicant is going to overprice patients, which doesn't make sense. Because I'll ask you, would any of your patients buy an eye drop for more than 1,000 rupees?
Very less.
Very
amount.
few,
Very
maybe
few.
a few.
Yeah.
Literally a handful.
Yeah.
And will we sell it at 1,000 rupees? Probably not. I'll not be able to make it into a brand. So affordability is already kept in check.
Right.
Because of the market sensitivities.
True.
So they think that the first applicant is going to put up the price and trying to recover the money, but it's not the case in India. You can do it probably in certain more mature markets or regulated markets. But in India, you can't up the price like that. In any case, more than 10% you can't up the price every year. So your starting price will not be exorbitantly high. So that argument that exclusivity will increase pricing doesn't make sense, at least for products that are medicines that are developed in India.
If this keeps on happening, a lot of people will actually think about innovating in India, It could be a problem, right?
I know, because I'm part of the IDMA, there are a lot of young entrepreneurs who have great ideas. They've already started their research work. They're trying to get funding, but they're kind of demoralized कि इतना करके क्या फायदा है?
Right.
I'm not going to make any money. A big company will come. They'll spend crores on marketing. They take my idea. They'll get it approved. What benefit I'm going to get? And rightly so. And that is why they get, they don't take it forward. Or they come to someone like us saying that, can you partner with me and you guys help sell it, and I will kind of develop it, because they know the mindset is the same. Like, we are not there to steal anyone's kind of research work. But unfortunately, not everyone thinks like that. Everyone just wants something to do in, have the same molecule in their brand and make it big.
But this is how it has always been in this country. But what are you doing to trying to change these things?
A lot of things. Sometimes I feel I'm the only one doing it. But then I realize there are a few people who also believe. There are companies like Walk Hard who also passionately believe in clinical exclusivity. They are also a company which has come out with some world first new chemical entities also. There's Zydus also. There are other companies. There's Biocon in the biologic space. I mean, they all, have tried to push the cause for clinical exclusivity in some way or the other.
How do you achieve that? But
see, one is that to make doctors aware. That's the first thing, because at the end of the day, those medicines have to be prescribed by doctors. Doctors should know what they are prescribing and the journey that the company has gone through to get it on their prescription. I think that is the first thing.
A lot of doctors don't know about it.
They don't know,
Yeah.
yes. The second thing is to get the media involved, to talk about it in as a national interest topic. That if we don't innovate, then our competitors like in China are going to go far, they're already far ahead of us in terms of pharma innovation. And many people don't know this also.
Yeah, true.
So get the media involved. So to create a sense of, kind of need or awareness in the public, and then lobby it in New Delhi, with the Ministry of Health, and Family Welfare, with the PMO, with think tanks like, all the those kind of think tanks, to put the word across. So we are doing that already. Right. It's a long drawn process, and sometimes I feel isolated in it, because half the industry is telling me, why are you wasting your time? Just copy karo na, itna molecule hai. Why are you breaking your head over all of this? But then I think, I've always been impact driven. So I was like, either way, I'm still going to do it. And to give you an example is, even though a product can be copied, there is nothing that we have spent on research where we have not made a decent ROI. I call it,
these are facts.
Some kind of things, but I mean, I don't know from where those blessings come from. So that's given us more of a motive that we're still going to do it anyways.
Yeah.
But everyone may not be as lucky.
Yeah.
They may spend a big amount and someone may take everything away from them, which I feel is unfair. So lobbying at a government level is important. I think this matter should be raised in Parliament also, because this is a national interest topic,
True.
And because our government is talking so much about innovation, R&D, and now they've put in huge amounts of money has been put forward for R&D. I think almost 1 lakh crores have been put towards R&D in India collectively. So I think, at some point somebody at the top may realize that actually this is a serious issue, and that they were always hearing one part of the story. They hadn't heard my part of the story yet, So I think this needs to be put in that way, and I am doing it, and our certain like-minded people who have got together with are trying to push this agenda, and we hope that in the next 2 to 3 years something changes.
I've seen you across different news channels talking about the same issues once or twice. What is the kind of response you're getting over this? Is there a pushback from the system, or what you talk about makes sense to those people?
See, when you sit with them and explain to them properly about how it could impact the next 30, 40 years in India, it makes complete sense to them.
Yeah.
But if you have a short-term thinking about it, it doesn't make sense to them. So I think there is still a mindset that let us just reverse engineer really well. Let us have 100 brands of the same molecule, and that for us is our industry. That is still prevalent in India. But slowly the mindset is changing, and some people have started to buy the fact that actually this system will plateau off. If India has to be a $450 billion industry, this will not take us to that level. There is no way. You can do the maths, and by 2047 they want to reach it. I don't think there is a way. So the only way is to create genuine value. And when I say value, a lot of people think the price is going to go up. It's not. I'm talking about creating value in finding the therapeutic gaps. Like, for example, 10 years ago, we decided to commercialize low-dose atropine for myopia. There was a zero market for it. Whoever I approached, they said, ki market hai hi nahi, why are you wasting your time? I was looking at it from a point of view that there are myopia patients, children are there. Then the pandemic happened, and obviously, myopia kind of grew out of this. So we created a market from zero to what it is now. That is value.
Yeah, true.
Now like that, you can create value in fungal keratitis. You can create value in corneal wound healing.
True.
You can create value in so many medical conditions for which there is nothing right now. So that is what I mean by when I say value kind of creation. And that will take us to that ultimate level by 2047, where we want to be a developed country and have genuine innovation happening for our people.
So I want to talk to you about China now, because this is where it gets a little uncomfortable. A few years ago, China was exactly where India is now. It was the copycat of the world. It copied everything and made it cheaper. But in just a decade, they went through innovation at a crazy scale. 29% of the world's all new cancer drugs now come from China. How did that happen? What are they doing that we can learn from?
See, in China, they offer a clinical exclusivity, or they call it also clinical data protection for, I think, up to 6 years. So for 6 years, you can't get a second player, a second applicant, which is what we're trying to push here. Plus, they have other measures in place to protect innovators in China, right from the funding level to the IP level, at various levels of the innovation journey. So that has allowed the entire ecosystem to work and them to innovate in all these new therapies, right from the biologics to stem cell-based, gene-based therapies and everything. And that is why it is brought. So what you just said 10 years ago, they had this ecosystem, and today they're where they imagine. I feel if we have the ecosystem now, we can do it even faster than China.
Really?
Because we have the brains.
Right.
We have a good manufacturing capability when it comes to pharma in India, and we have everything it takes except some outdated policies and rules. Which no one wants to change for convenience purposes. So I think that if something happens today, for example, by 2035, I mean, we've only innovated, I think, genuine innovations have been 8, 9 in the last 5 years. We could have hundreds, literally hundreds. And then the big pharma will also get confidence. You're talking why big pharma is not investing. The minute they get confidence, imagine what they will do.
True.
Right. So it will all work for us in the long term.
So, in 1 decade, China overtook Korea, Japan, and the entire Europe in innovation, the kind of work they've done. So I read about it a little bit, and I found out they created an entire ecosystem. They created universities, knowledge passing through universities. There is a risk capital to public-private disbursement of funds. And there is incentives for entrepreneurs. Everything is aligned in a way. I think we are still little disorganized in that space. Do you think that will help?
See, actually, a lot of that luckily has started. The funding for R&D, like there is a recent funding that's been announced for research and development in pharma. There's something called as a PRIP scheme, which has started now in pharma, which even we have applied for. So these funding models have kind of started to come into play now.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that we will use those funds if we cannot get an ROI ultimately. And the ROI will only come once you have a period of 4-5 years where no one else can sell it.
Yeah,
right.
True.
So I think we've done one part of the work where previously there was an understanding that, where we'll get the funding from and is it worth it, and private equity investors and other investors wouldn't routinely fund these kind of things because it's a long-term project, about 5 to 10 years, whereas these investors come for a 5-year marriage, a 4-year marriage.
True.
So why would they fund it? But now the money is there, but we just need slight tweaking in the NDCT rules, in the regulations, like how they did in the US in the 80s, to balance generic and innovation. If that happens in India, I think it's problem solved for us. Everything else is done. It's all set.
PRIP is the 10,000 crore fund. That's the
it's a 5,000 crore fund. It was delayed for various reasons.
Explain to people what the PRIP is.
So PRIP fund is that if you're at a certain TRL level of your innovation, then depending on that level, you get a certain amount of funding to complete your project. And the government becomes a partner, so you give a certain percentage as royalty back to the government after it's approved.
Okay.
So that's actually a very good scheme.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's been a bit delayed, but it's started now. They've started processing applications. The money has been made available, I'm told. They spent a lot of money, but again, the awareness of this scheme was not as strong as it should have been. So that I think will help, especially companies in the MSME sector. For them, spending 5 crores is a big thing.
Right.
For a big pharma, 5 crores could be just a little peanut. So it doesn't matter to them. So I think to boost R&D in the MSME segment, these schemes will really help. And by the way, I mean, from all the discussions I've had, one thing I have realized is that if India is going to mature as a pharma industry or reach that level by 2047, the innovation will come from the MSME sector.
Okay.
Not from big pharma only.
Okay.
MSME sector has a lot of talent.
Right.
Which has not been utilized yet. And these are the people who get demoralized, who end up either working for big pharma or they end up going to the US and doing things, working there. So the MSME sector, if we boost it up, properly with funding, with support, all the support they want of R&D, I think we'll do wonders.
I had this book I was looking for. It's about Ranbaxy. Things had gone wrong with Ranbaxy. There was thing written over there. It's usually not a funding problem. It's not a regulation problem. It's mostly a governance problem. And there the author had written that R&D takes around 7 to 8 years. The government changes in 5 years. So it's a long horizon thinking is a structural problem in India. This is what he was saying. Every government comes with new rules and there is not a continuity of policy that happens, is what he was writing in the book. Do you think that is true?
Yes, partly it's true, and that is why even though, we are in a long-term pharma game, right? So you need continuity of policy, and that is why even though I am politically neutral, I prefer if the same government or the same political party is ruling for at least 15 to 20 years in India, no matter who they are. Because at least from my point of view, things will be more, there'll be more confidence.
Yeah.
Things will move forward. What I don't want is that the ruling government now takes a fantastic initiative and next election something drastic happens.
And then they go out of power.
And then we go in a different direction altogether. Right.
And the new government has a different priority. Then.
And pharma industry needs continuity of good policies, continuity of intent, of good intent. We don't need a 5-year deal.
Yeah.
You know, we need a 20-year deal.
Yeah.
You know, so that I feel for me, that's how I look at it. So a lot of the initiatives the government is taking now in pharma are good.
Right.
I welcome them, you know, but at the same time, where I feel that they're not doing the best, I openly kind of talk against it.
Right.
Like in the certain rules where we talked about clinical exclusivity and innovation protection and all that, I think we're not doing a great job, you know, but we need continuity in India.
But do you think even if the government changes, let's say, but still the clinical data exclusivity should be something that should survive the change of government? That should be a policy in itself.
Yes.
It shouldn't matter if the government changes or not. The clinical data should be exclusive irrespective of the matter. Do you think this is something that you can push for?
Yeah, so I mean that's why we are pushing it, you know, at a very fast pace now, getting the awareness there, making sure that at least in the next 2 to 3 years before the elections, something positive happens so that we maintain continuity over a period.
Right.
The problem is that if it doesn't happen in the next 5 years, then we don't know the next person coming in what they will do.
True,
you know.
true.
So then again, our work will have to start again
from zero.
Zero.
Yeah,
you know.
true.
So lobbying is a long run game, but
Yeah.
it needs to be done in a very smart way also. And our lobbying is not to make money. Our lobbying has a very clear cut case that is going to help the nation first. You know, it's India first. See, our pharma industry. And I always say this, and you know, people attack me for it. I believe Indian pharma industry is always very US centric.
Our country is US centric. Don't you think so?
45% of our pharma revenue that comes is only from India.
Yeah.
The rest is from international markets, and out of that, the US is the main. So basically, our pharma industry has kind of been developed for one country.
Yeah.
If you look at it, if you look at the numbers, you know, I think that should change. We have a huge population. We have healthcare needs here. Instead of, you know, looking at a distant, small town in California, we need to look at what is happening in the neighboring village, which we are not. You know, we're not looking at it because Indian pharma is not looking in that direction. Now, because of the geopolitical scene, we have started to look at India. कि यहाँ भी scope है. So in many ways, our domestic pharma market is untapped, you know, and there is a lot of scope because spending power has improved in India across. Even if you go to, we do a lot of activity in tier 3, tier 4 rural settings also. I'm surprised with the kind of spending power that, you know, is there now.
True.
10 years ago, it was a very different scene.
Yeah.
Maybe because of the internet, because of things that moved forward in various ways. But so then you then start to think, well, actually, you know, it's not you go to the world, that the world is here. You know, India is the world. Every company is setting up their global capability center in India because they look at India as a world center. You know, and we here are looking at outward, you know, and as per our philosophy, our culture, we are meant to look inwards.
Yeah.
Even in pharma, we have to look inwards and we are looking outwards. And we have been, and that's helping. But now I think moving forward, I think we will have to cater to our people and do something for the country first and then the global south second.
Right. So I was watching a documentary about China. How did they accelerate progress? Not in pharma segment, but for every segment. First, they built for China. They made everything for the Chinese consumer itself. And when they started buying it, then they escalated. Their primary job was to build for us first, and then you can start exporting it outside is what they did. Probably that is what you're talking about.
Yeah, so make for India, make for the world. You know, make for India should always be a priority, and then you go to the world. You know, so that's how it should be.
So tell me if I'm wrong. You said we are mostly, our international market is mostly focused on the US, and tell me if I'm wrong over here. More than our majority API comes from China itself. So manufacturing is basically dependent on, like, our entire pharma industry is based on 2 different countries. Is that correct assumption?
See, from a manufacturing perspective, you know, now you have a lot of the API development and manufacturing schemes in India, which is called as the PLI schemes and all of that. That basically is there so that we become more self-reliant when it comes to APIs. So our dependency on China has reduced, but still, from the last time I saw it, we still depend almost 70% for APIs from China. But Indian APIs have increased in volume in kind of production. Like in our own sector in ophthalmic, I don't think we hardly import now. I think it's mostly it is homegrown APIs with really good manufacturing facilities, all the global certifications. So the need has reduced, to import, but we still have a long way to go there. So in manufacturing, I think self-reliance will come faster. In research, self-reliance has to also come, which I think that is what we're talking about this and trying to push this agenda forward.
You talked about 8 innovations, all are mid-sized companies. Give me a ballpark figure. What does it actually take to innovate a product in India? What figure are we looking at?
See, for a small molecule, if it is a repurposed molecule, you are looking at roughly around 10 to 15 CR. If it is something completely new, India, the research costs are much less than the US and all of other markets. So you're looking at around 20 to 25 CR.
Not average. A lot of difference.
It's not that different. But then because if it's something completely new, you have to do molecular studies on it. You have to create a proper animal model. There has to be more of a proof of concept established, which will obviously be expensive. You have to do a lot of work yourself because that molecule has never been tested anywhere else.
Right.
Then you may have to partner with some research institutes. So all of that will cost around 20-25 CR. And obviously if it's a biologic, it's much more. But there's a lot more work involved there.
But do we have the infrastructure present to develop a new drug for testing and
absolutely
everything?
The thing is, we develop more drugs for the US than for India. We have the best labs here. You have CROs, you have companies who basically the main job is to develop new molecules for the US market. So they come here and utilize services from us. But these are not molecules, these are for US FDA approved products. We have the labs, we have the in vitro studies. I've been to some of the most amazing R&D centers here, and they're doing exclusive work for US companies.
Cheap labor.
The infrastructure is here.
Yeah.
It's just that it's not being done for India because that money that they feel they'll not be able to kind of recover it here.
Yeah. In your email, you wrote that MSME companies are increasingly hesitant to innovate new products. What is this hesitation looking like? Is it a boardroom decision or are people just shelving programs?
See, I think it's a bit of both really because right now in India, the MSME sector, because there's been so many regulatory changes in the last 1 to 2 years. There have been Schedule M upgrades, changes in Schedule M. In order to boost the quality of manufacturing, so many changes have happened in such a short period of time that MSMEs are almost in a survival mode right now.
Yeah.
They are not bothered about innovation at this point. They're like, how do we survive? How do we get job work? How do we comply? Right? And I think at some point the regulatory landscape has to improve. I think this is that turning point. So as of now, innovation is not even on their minds.
Yeah, survival is on the mind.
Survival is on their minds. Let these changes settle for 2-3 years and then we will figure something out. So I think that is what's happening right now, But even if that wasn't happening, they still were hesitant to invest because they were like, they'll not get much back. And MSMEs don't have the kind of marketing sales power that big pharma has. So even if you develop something new, how will they sell it in the in the market? So that also was an issue that I can come out with the most innovative product, but I can't sell it.
Right.
I simply don't have a sales structure or a sales engine to make that brand big in the market.
True.
So I think that is one of the reasons. That is why I feel that MSMEs need more support, right from manufacturing to research to marketing and sales also.
True. You mentioned earlier that media should also play a role in making sure that a certain company has innovated a product so that people can understand and doctors can also understand exclusivity of a product. I'm sorry for bringing this up, but when PressView was launched, it attracted a lot of negative publicity. So do you think it is a double-edged sword going to the media and talking about it?
See, I think it's kind of like in a way, it's a right of every company to talk about some innovation they have done. Otherwise, who else will get inspired? As ENTOD, if I talk about our story and what we have developed, some young guy there will get inspired and do the same. Right. Now, somebody will tell me, don't talk anything, just keep quiet, innovate, but just keep quiet. I think that will not solve the problem. Now, why innovation in the US is big is because the minute you see in the news something is launched, approved, they make a big thing out of it. Right? They tell everyone this is the first of its first in class, and all of that. So I think we need to talk about all the new things that we do, even if there is a backlash. We still need to talk. At least someone has done something. They have not kept quiet or sat in a room and just done the usual, business as usual. They have done something different, So I believe that it is very important, and media will play a very important role in the future also, to kind of boost innovation or the innovative mindset in our people, in the youngsters. We want more youngsters to get into the scientific field. How are we going to inspire them? I am often invited to a lot of these pharmacy colleges to talk. I talk about this only. My only job is to inspire and motivate them. Whatever I have done, not a big deal. There are people who've done 100 million things better than me. But whatever experience I have, I'm going to share it with them and hopefully inspire them. Because they don't hear this in the news. All they hear in the news is that is about one batch was found, it was faulty. In India, there's this, only 1%, not even 1% of all batches made in India have some minor fault or some fault or the other. Those are glamorized, those are highlighted. Whereas
the good things are never.
The good things which are actually done are never talked about. So the students also want inspiration from time to time. So when I go there, I try and do the same. So I think the media plays an important role in allowing us to talk about our innovations. Yes, in line with the rules, But I think it becomes a right to then go and tell in the interest of the country. Even when the Presview thing happened, no one knew what presbyopia was. A common person asking कि क्या है ये press myopia क्या है करके, like that ये कुछ, so it's like, so it creates an awareness, and at that time the funny thing was the product was not even manufactured. It was not in the market for somebody to say it's a risk to public.
All you got was an approval then.
It is just based on an approval. I understand if the product was at a chemist store and somebody said, oh, you know what, this has been blown out of proportion and we should not talk about it, we should recall the batch. Understand to that extent. The product was not even made, and at that stage it's like, this happened. So it was almost kind of I think for me it was a great experience. I never regret that happened, because I think that allowed me to realize, one is how to deal with the media.
Right.
Because we're all learning, how to talk to the media, so that things don't get muddled up or the wrong information doesn't go out.
True.
It's a learning experience for all of us. But I think that made me realize even more that innovations have to be shouted out loud.
Have ENTOD ever been in a position where you have done the hard work and somebody has benefited from your work and copied your product?
I think we go through this all the time, whether it is a new concept that we come out with, whether it is a clinical trial that we've done, whether it is a new category that we are trying to create, a new campaign we are doing. But the thing is, as I said at the start, I'd rather be a leader than be a copycat. And I don't take any pride in being a copycat. At least that's how I look. Even though a copycat could potentially make more money fast, but at some point they will get stuck. How much they'll copy,
right?
So I prefer to just lead by example, do things for the first time, do it ethically, do it honestly with a pure heart, and from a point of view that I want to create an impact. See, I'm never results oriented. neither has my dad or my grandfather or anyone in my family been results driven. We've always been impact driven, you know. So what we are doing now till, you know, the next say 30, 40 years is not going to be for money, you know. Very honestly, I don't need more.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with the grace of God. I have everything. I don't want that private jet, or I don't want that house in one of the Caribbean islands or something like that. I'm happy with what I have. I'm comfortable with what I'm. After a certain age, you know, you're happy with what you're like. और चाहिए क्या life में? At that age in your life, you just want to do something genuine.
Yeah.
You want to create an impact.
Yeah.
You know, yes, your company should grow, your people should grow, your valuation should grow. All of that has to happen, but we are doing it to create an impact.
Yeah.
You know, so that is what
I totally understand that. You know, as a doctor, it is my job to prescribe the best medication to my patient. And a lot of doctors would say without hurting his pockets as well. Generics have done something wonderful for the country. I mean, it has put good medication and at affordable prices to the people for whom actually affordability is an issue. And we are the generic pharmacy of the world. Everybody knows that. I know you've talked about this a few minutes back, but I want you to explain this in detail. What you're talking about is exclusivity, but that doesn't mean that India should walk away from generics, correct? Explain that a little bit.
See, there are two aspects here. One is, if a molecule is approved in the US or in any of the regulated markets, it can come into India and they could have 100 brands, all marketed at a low price.
Yeah.
I am for that.
Yeah.
Right? Because why should we pay $250 for a medicine when we can get it here at 200 rupees?
Yeah.
I am for that kind of generics because we have not done the research there.
Yeah.
It's someone else's. That is their lookout. You know, our people are benefiting, good affordability. I'm not asking them to change that. My only thing is that when you do the research in India, then someone else should not come because we don't overcharge, whereas they have a habit of overcharging. I was just doing an analysis that if in India we had not developed low-dose atropine eye drops, in 2015, we certainly had a crazy idea, let's do this. And suppose a US company had done it. Today, that eye drop in India would have been much more expensive.
True.
Right. It would have been at least 800-900 rupees. And then after 4 years, some other players would have marketed it at 600 rupees.
Yeah.
Now it's in the 300 rupee mark. So what I'm saying is even Indian innovation can help in cost effectiveness and good affordability.
Yeah.
You know, so that is what I am against, that about Indian innovation should not be copied. Generics is always going to be, you know, a platform builder. And after 4 years, there could be 100 brands. It doesn't matter.
True.
You know, I'm not bothered after 4 years of what I do, how many brands there are. Let there be any number of brands because my brand is built. You know, I can work on the next brand.
You want the chance to be able to do that.
Yeah. Every brand is like a startup.
Yeah.
Right? You built it, you've gotten the ROI, now you move on to the next one.
True.
So that is how I look at brand building and product development, you know. So I'm not against generics. It's a part and parcel. In fact, talking about generics, it's the generics medicines in India that have almost single-handedly eradicated HIV in Africa. No one knows about this.
Really?
You know, a lot of those HIV treatments were manufactured in India by a couple of companies. You know, so the impact that Indian generics have had in the world is unbelievable.
Yeah, true.
No one also talks about this much. There was a recent conference where somebody talked about this and the impact of HIV therapy and how India has played its part is amazing. It's a great story that hasn't been told yet. Like, for example, we heard about vaccines, right? India is one of the largest vaccine manufacturers in the world, and during COVID, what we did. So the generic business does help and it's never going to go away.
Yeah.
But it needs to be balanced with innovation. That's all we are saying.
Yeah.
Right now, it's heavily tipped towards generics.
Right. You know, but we talked about this earlier. As a doctor, most of us don't know the journey a molecule has done. We don't know about the original molecule. Do you think we as doctors should be more informed about what molecule we are prescribing?
Absolutely. I think there is a lot of variation between products in India, especially in ophthalmic products. See, in normally a doctor would look at the main API and say, "वो same molecule होगा, तो सबका एक ही होगा." But that is not true,
Yeah.
right? Because in every ophthalmic formulation, there are certain things that have to be optimized. Like you have, I'm not even talking about pH, osmolarity, but you're talking about excipients. Now, if you see the major problems in medicines of last 2 years has happened not because of the API, because of excipients. You had the issue of cough mixtures,
Yeah.
where people lost their lives.
Yeah.
It was because of propylene glycol, which was a contaminated version of it, adulterated version of it. It's an excipient.
Yeah.
Now they put in certain laws in place to even control that. So when you prescribe an eye drop, for example, you should know the company who has done it has standardized it with certain excipients, has got the osmolarity right, they have the impurities under control. There are a lot of parameters. It's not as simple as it is one Timolol and you have 100 brands, so all will be the same. They may have been manufactured to the same manufacturing standard.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're all the same.
Yeah.
There are variations, and we do it all the time. Our lab, we constantly analyze samples across the market so that we can improve, not to put anyone down. So we know how much variation there is.
True.
Now, we've been in this area for 50 years now. We've been one of the first eye drop manufacturers in India, in Maharashtra, one of the second, third in India. So we have almost 50 years experience of eye drop manufacturing and development. So we're talking from that perspective and with that experience in mind. So doctors need to know more about eye drops. There are a lot of issues which go into the end product that comes, which you guys prescribe.
Yeah.
And slowly the awareness, I think, will grow because everyone wants to be more technically, knowledgeable.
Right. So Pressview, MYATRO XL, ENTOD has had 2 innovative products in the past, 3 years? 3 years, yeah.
years.
So if the system doesn't change, a competitor will come and copy these products and they'll be in the market. What is the realistic chance that a third innovation is also in the pipeline?
We have 2 other innovations in the pipeline now, which are
really?
going to start phase 2 trials very soon.
Yeah.
Hopefully within the next 2 to 3 months, you will start phase 2. That again is a first in the world. It's a first in class therapy for problems that we have identified which are for which there's no solution. One is for condition of neurotropic keratitis. No approved treatment anywhere in the world. And secondly is for corneal wound scarring. Again, there's nothing to, no anti-fibrotic agents available anywhere in the world. So these are the 2 areas we are working on. Already a lot of work has been done and they're going to enter the clinical phase very soon. Beyond that, we are working on a new chemical entity, which I can't disclose at this point.
Obviously.
But it is, in the areas of myopia, plus a lot of repurposed molecules also. So see, the last 2-3 years has made us realize that now if we have to do something, we'll do it full out. So the research drive in our organization is probably at the fastest pace. We are doing several projects in one go, where we basically have kind of gone full out when it comes to research. Because we don't want to stop in this great journey, which inspires me the most. I mean, I get very bored if the same thing happens every day.
Yeah.
I want some excitement. I want some spice. I want some whatever, like masala.
Yeah.
And my masala is innovation and genuine innovation.
Yeah.
Not marketing gimmicks and saying, "Arey, isme hum logon ne ye wo." It has to be genuine. At the same time, we've started doing, apart from clinical trials, we've started doing real world studies. After approval, we've done about 4-5 of them, which is amazing because we're getting data now. And we are living in a data world, So we started doing that because again, any innovation we talk about, you need continuous data so that you can establish the long-term kind of, long-term safety and all of those aspects. So it's an exciting time for us. So we are just very clued on with what we want to do. And there is a lot of clarity of thought in terms of what we want to achieve.
Before I ask you a question, quickly do a recap on what the difference between a patent and clinical data exclusivity. people a lot of times conflate between these two terms.
So clinical exclusivity comes under the umbrella of the regulator. So if the regulator wants to approve a particular drug, he will give the first applicant a period of say 4, 5, 6 years where no one else can apply for it. So it can never come in the market. So that comes under the Ministry of Health, it comes under the CDSCO, which most other regulators in other countries are offering first applicants. In India, we don't have that framework yet, right? Whereas patent comes under the IP segment, which is a different law altogether. You know, normally when they don't have clinical exclusivity, they say it's not to do with us, you go get a patent because it's nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
So patent is just the intellectual property that you you own. Now with that, someone can still apply, but then there could be an infringement case, and you may fight in court or whatever. So that is the difference between the two. So patent is about more novelty, whereas what we are talking clinical exclusivity is more about innovation. Now, not all innovative products may be novel, right? But anything novel could be patented. True. Often there is a kind of confusion between the 2 points, that your innovation is just a solution. It doesn't have to be complete rocket science. It is just a great solution that you have come out with to solve a problem which no one else has come out with. For that, we need clinical period of 4 to 5 years exclusivity.
So then walk me through this proposed system of data exclusivity. Day one, you have your approval granted. What rights does the innovator have that they don't have today?
Right now, if we get a product approved and we have done, say, a phase 3 clinical trial, our data can indirectly be used by a second applicant to get the product approved. Now, with clinical data protection or clinical exclusivity, my data will not be able to be used by anyone else for a period of 4 to 5 years. After that, they could use the data to get a second approval. But for the period of 4 to 6 years, no one else will be able to use the data. And this should be done by the regulator. This is not the patents office or anything like that. The CDSCO should then give a period of say 4 years when they will not encourage a second applicant. They'll say, no, but we can't give it because it's developed in India. So that is all that we're asking. It's a simple clarification of the rules.
The US, the EU, Japan, and even China, I mean, it came from a copycat or innovator. Even all these countries have similar rules about data exclusivity. Do you think if India's pharma sector has to grow, this single point of data exclusivity is what is stopping us?
This is the only missing part of the puzzle for us to become a truly value-driven industry. Everything else I said in the some time ago is there. We have the minds, the ecosystem, the research, the money, everything. This, I think, is the thing which no one wants to talk about, but it affects eventually the potential to innovate, and it stifles innovation in the market. Not only clinical exclusivity, some countries, like they will give you say a 6-year clinical exclusivity plus the time you have spent to do clinical trials also. That also is added because they were like the company has spent money during those 3-4 years. That time is also added. So imagine how considerate they are for innovators. So it becomes an innovator's paradise. Right. So everyone wants to do. So why do you think there are 50 to 100 new chemical entities coming out almost every year from the US alone? Because they just continuously are at it. While we are busy copy-pasting here and making money out of it and making big news out of that, they are innovating because of this framework that is there in their system.
Right. I read that the CDSCO has opened a consultation about this topic. You're on the IDMA R&D committee. What is the current state of affairs inside the system? What debate is going on? Is it still a fringe argument or is it gaining momentum?
I think it's great that this point was raised by the CDSCO itself, because I think somewhere they also identified that there is an unlevel playing field when it comes to drug approvals in India. And that is why they even came out with this circular. But I think the industry response has been mixed. You know, there are a lot of industry players who also are against what I'm saying. They don't want clinical exclusivity. They just want to copy paste. I'm not even saying that they're wrong. That's just the way they think, right? And there are some people like me, or you can call a bit, innovation-driven people who are for it.
Yeah.
So because of this mixed response, I think they're also in a situation where they say, okay, let it be the way it is for now.
Yeah.
Until and unless there is a change in the laws, change in the rules, we can't do anything about it. So when we go to the CDSCO, their hands are tied because they can't do anything. They don't make laws there.
Yeah.
So we have to then go to the lawmakers and convince them on, what the need for, which obviously is a long process in India. It's not easy to get laws changed in India.
It's a lot of lobbying and all.
A lot of lobbying and all of that. But I think it will. I think somebody if there is a political will for it at the top, at PMO level, I think it will happen.
Yeah. How does India Pharma look at 2030?
It looks exciting. I think there is a lot of good work happening in the industry.
Yeah.
I think manufacturing standards are on the up. They're going to grow because now we are supplying to more countries than what we did in the past. Plus our Indian market also is going to boom, I feel. We've still not seen the domestic market do as well as it should. So manufacturing standards will definitely improve. We'll become more reliant in APIs for sure. I think a lot of API development, manufacturing will happen in India. And hopefully, if clinical exclusivity is offered, then I think we can do wonders when it comes to the innovation and research. I think we will surprise the whole world. And I always give an example of our defense sector. For a long time, we were importing, the kind of arms, weapons, rockets, everything, right, from China, from the US, from Russia. Now we are indigenously manufacturing, and look at what that's done.
Yeah.
We have some of the best, most advanced military equipment because somebody had the will to manufacture, develop it and research it in India. If we couldn't do it in the defense sector, which is so complicated and it has to be done in secrecy, why can't we do it in pharma when we have the minds?
Exactly.
That's the only thing, the only thing that makes me believe that in the next 5 to 10 years, our industry could look very different to what it is now.
Can we just copy China's playbook and do what we are doing to grow? Or do we need a different path?
No, the same thing. See, it's nothing new that's happening in China or in the US. We just need to look at the China and the US as two innovation-driven markets who are also there. It's not that they have affordability, that they don't have affordability problems. They also have affordability issues. They have still managed to create an ecosystem of innovation despite having people not being able to afford. Why can't we do it? Why are we so different? So we just have to basically take the best of the systems in China and the US and cater it to our industry. It's not that difficult. It can be done. It just needs a few people to, take some top level decisions and just make it happen. Because there's nothing to lose here.
Yeah.
Because as you said, in the last 5 years, there's only 8 innovations that have come. So where are people lost? If they were offered clinical exclusivity, how would that have impacted the industry? Hardly. So I don't think it's going to create huge value for the industry in the future.
I've seen you comment, post on Facebook that by 2030, 3 more innovations you plan to have 3 more innovations by 2030. Do you think you can meet that timeline, or if these regulatory mechanisms don't kick in, you will still meet those timeline?
No, I mean, our research projects and plan is independent of any changes that will happen in the framework. We are either way, no matter what, are going to do it, and that is the will. Because if you don't have that will, it will not happen. I can't expect that some change hoga next year and then I will push it. I have to do it anyway. So we have already made arrangements for the funding of these projects, for example. We've already made plans. We already started these projects, got our teams together, and it's already, both projects are more than midway now, and a third one is also just started. So we are confident of reaching the timelines. We have to do it, and actually one of the reasons we want to do it, we want to show others also. With such a harsh environment,
I can still do it.
And that our logo is the lotus.
Yeah.
It grows in kind of muddy water.
Yeah.
So we still bloom. We will still bloom in innovation, no matter how the ecosystem around us is. And that's what I want to show. And then others will hopefully be motivated. And hopefully by then there should be some better, fairer system for new drug approvals.
So people should know this. Your great grandmother collected herbs. Your grandfather launched crore. Your father started ENTOD Pharmaceuticals. You built MYATRO XL press view, one of the 8 innovations in a country of 1.4 billion people. What chapter are you writing? In one sentence, if I have to give you.
See, I don't think there should be a pride in all of this. I think my granddad, my family has always taught me to be very humble. We do good things, you talk about it for 10 seconds, you forget about it, you look at the next thing. I don't even like talking about all the things that I may have done or my dad may have done or my research team has done for too long. Because there are too many problems to sort out. If I keep talking about 10 years ago I did this, I did that, then you will miss the boat for the next problem. So the chapter we are writing is basically just to identify problems, to solve it, and to do it for our people and to make our country proud. And I mean, like we are living in an information age. Like after all these years, no one knows my granddad's name, but they know crore.
Yeah.
So the name is forgotten.
Yeah.
But the spirit behind it is still there.
True.
So I think in some way that is what I want to move towards. That I may not be around, we will not be around, forever. But the brand will be there, and the essence of the brand and the intent will always be there, and the brand will keep growing no matter what happens. So I think it's about creating an impact.
What genuinely scares you about Indian pharma?
I think one is that, which we've already talked about in the past, is that we will be too commercially driven with generics and become a worse version of US pharma, which is very, very commercially driven. I think Indian pharma should be pharma with a soul, right? Because that's what India has been known historically for, is to have some kind of ethic, some kind of soul behind what we do. So I always fear that we'll become so money-minded that we'll forget why we are in the business in the first place.
Yeah.
So I don't want it to be too commercialized. Yes, there has to be a commercial element, but that should not basically be the main deciding factor.
Right.
So I don't want us to be a worse version of the US. That is the first thing. We should have innovation. It should be cost effective. We should be giving medicines to the emerging markets, to all of the countries of the global south, have leadership there rather than just being a money making market. So that's the first thing that kind of scares me. The second thing that scares me is that I think we will be stuck with what we have, just depending on the West. We'll not be able to solve the Indian conditions or the Indian medical conditions for which there are no treatments developed in the US. So there will be a gap. There will be huge therapeutic gaps in the future, which will cause an economic impact, a socio-economic impact will be created, especially for conditions affecting young people, because they have entire lives ahead of them to add value to the country, to the nation. So we need to basically look at like you're looking at myopia, for example. It affects youngsters, but like that there are many conditions which are more prevalent in young people, like hearing problems, for example. It affects their entire life. They can't contribute to society, to community the way they should. So that scares me, that we will not be able to find the problems, and we will simply copy what is there in the West and just be very happy about it and talk big about it.
What do you want the doctors, the young pharmacists, the MSME founders who are listening to this episode to take away from this conversation today?
I mean, the one thing is, if you want to innovate in anything, be it in surgical techniques, surgical instruments, pharma, cosmetics, whatever you want to innovate in, just go for it.
Yeah.
This is the time not to think too much as to whether I'm going to make money from it or not. As long as you have identified the problem, it is not a namesake gimmick that you want to innovate because you're passionate about it. If there is a genuine problem, find the solution and just go full out.
Right.
Take calculated risks. That's the first thing that I would say. The second is that kind of don't get too bogged down if things don't go your way from a regulatory point of view. Because I think eventually, if something is meant to work and there is a gap, you will get there at some point. So to basically be fearless in innovation, be fearless in what you want to create. I think human beings are born to create. We're not born to copy all the time.
Absolutely.
There is an element of copying, yes.
Yeah.
But we are, and India has been creating, since prehistoric times.
Yeah.
We have such a great culture of innovation. Unfortunately, we have not used it in pharma and healthcare yet. In fact, surgeons have innovated more than pharma.
Yeah.
We still have the same eye drops that were there 70 years ago. We're still prescribing it now. Whereas look at how cataract surgery has evolved.
Yeah.
Right? Phaco and all of these. It's gone from where to where. So I think we need to give confidence to the youngsters that, keep innovating, keep fighting for your innovation. And it is a very difficult job when you innovate. People are going to try and put you down. People are going to say, don't waste your time. People are going to say, you're going to make a loss. They're going to call you names. They're going to call you everything. But don't lose hope. Just go on and just continuously focus on what you want to achieve. As long as your problem is real.
Yeah.
Don't create a problem and then find a solution for
Right.
it. Your problem should be genuine and real. Then you will always be successful.
We all have been given a very nice dream of being a developed nation by 2047. What do you think ENTOD looks like in 2047?
I think firstly, we want to be a pioneer in eye care, in ophthalmic pharmaceuticals, not just in India, but for the world. I think that we have to make it happen.
Right.
That's my grandfather's dream. And I don't think we will rest until that happens. And we want to create an impact being number one. We don't just want to be number one and then be aggressive or dominate anyone. We want to be number one because when we become number one, we will lead. We will inspire. We will motivate. We will not buy everyone out and become a powerhouse where we put others down. We will inspire. Like, for example, a classic example of that, and I'm always inspired by Tesla and kind of Elon Musk. They started the EV revolution, but they allowed others to also prosper.
Yeah.
They allowed the EV revolution to kickstart all over the world. If Tesla hadn't done it, even BYD probably wouldn't have been there today.
Never.
So that is what we want to be. We want to motivate others. Let others also research. We're happy. It's not that we are going to, yes, we are in a competitive market, but let others innovate. So that is where we want to see ourselves as number one in our market, in our addressable market, and number one whilst maintaining our philosophical values. The Indianness in us should always be there. No matter how big we become, we will always be Indian at heart.
True.
And in soul. So that is what we never want to give up. We can't just emulate a Western style corporate system and hope that it works in India, because in India, people's sensibilities are different. So we always want to cater to that first.
Right.
So that is how we see ourselves in by 2047.
Lovely. Any closing thoughts before I let you go?
Please support the cause of clinical exclusivity in India. Even if you feel it doesn't apply to you, I'm telling you, it will apply to you at some point or the other. Because this is for the country. It is not just for the pharma industry. In fact, half the pharma industry may be against it. So it is more for the people.
Yeah.
So if people want their country to develop, they want India to be a developed nation, clinical exclusivity is the way forward, and it has to happen if you want to reach that level of China or the US and improve the overall health of our people.
But before I let you go, I've been thinking about one thing in my practice. We've always made sure that whatever we prescribe is highly, highly branded. There are top 5 some companies in ophthalmic: ENTOD, Alcon, Ajanta, AbbVie, Sun Pharma, Cipla. I don't remember ever going outside of this prescription ever. Once or twice I may have written a drop here or there, but then I was immediately pulled back by the efficacy. My entire problem with everything is efficacy. As a doctor, what works for me is only the efficacy of the drug. If the drug works, I get a good positive feedback back. And I always think that these copy-paste drugs lack in efficacy. This is the single most thing that for me is a problem statement. I don't know about others, but for me it is. And I've always made sure that I don't ever leave this space. And I think that I always wonder, why do other doctors do it? I don't have an answer for it. That.
I think pharma industry is all about trust.
Yeah.
And the intent behind the company, what the company stands for, what its promoters stand for. Will they ever compromise? I think most doctors who know me personally know that I will never compromise on quality or R&D or anything like that. But they may not everyone may know me. So I think once you know the people behind it, how they are, that they will not compromise, that even if there is a problem, they will pay from their own pockets, but not make sure that it doesn't cause any public harm.
True.
And I think that trust, when it's built, that's when you build a brand. We've been in this for 50 years. We've been selling sterile products for almost 50 years now. We have third generation of doctors who are supporting us.
Yeah.
I have doctors where, their grandfather used to meet my grandfather. And now I, being the grandson, I'm meeting them. Yeah. That for me is success.
Yeah, true.
That is trust. It's not about the brand. Brand, they may write us, they may this, but they have trust in us for 50 years that even the third generation is supporting us or trusting us. So I think in India, this is one of the few markets where this could be a great thing.
Yeah.
You could have a family legacy, which would be the building block of trust for pharma in the future. I don't think you'll be able to see this in the US. Because there is not a family system. And in India, most doctors also, ultimately, you're in a family business.
Yeah.
We are a family business. Yeah. Even if tomorrow we go public, we will still hold majority shares. All the decisions will be taken by us. So it's like, we will always be there in that segment. So I think trust is important, and if doctors understand the people behind it, that it is not for money. These guys are not doing it for a quick buck. Okay, 1-2 years, they, some company wants to sell certain medicines. Everyone may go for it because they feel, I'm saving something. But long term, would you take the risk for your medical practice, or, because there is a company who's offering you 1+1 scheme?
True.
You have spent so many years developing yourself, your profession, your practice, all the efforts. I mean, I've gone to small villages, rural settings. I've seen doctors work, and I literally have to fall on their feet. I'm like, my God, what you guys do is unbelievable. So would they risk it all by going to somebody that they don't trust, or hasn't been in this for at least 50 years and has always maintained the best quality record in the market? I think that is a question I think that doctors should also ask themselves. And, I think they'll get their answers there.
True. Thank you for doing this. I really enjoyed. For people who are watching this, you should know that this man flew all the way from Mumbai for this particular thing. And this is the second time he's doing it. So it's so honorable for me that you did this. And I hope we can have a third conversation about everything after a few months. Let's see what we do about it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.